The storm began without warning. One moment, the village was quiet, tucked beneath the black silhouettes of the mountains, and the next, thunder rolled so deep it felt like the earth itself groaned awake. Windows rattled, shutters clapped, and children buried their heads beneath blankets as lightning tore the night apart. Every villager knew what such a storm meant. It wasn't just a clash of clouds. It wasn't just the rain. No, storms this violent belonged to her, to the witch who lived in the thunder. The one mothers warned their children about before bed, whispering, "Never look out your window when lightning flashes, for she might be looking back." That night, 12-year-old Mara couldn't sleep. The roof above her bed shook with every clap of thunder. Her grandmother had told her the stories so many times of the storm witch whose eyes burned white with lightning, whose voice was the howl of the wind, who came to steal away children who dared stay awake past midnight in her storms. Mara didn't believe them. Not really. But belief meant little when the world outside shook with her name. Another flash split the sky, turning her small room into a brief photograph of itself. Her desk, her books, the dolls on her shelf. And there, for the briefest instant, Mara thought she saw something else in the corner. A shadow too tall to belong in her room. A figure bent and crooked. But when darkness returned, the corner was empty. Her breath caught in her throat. "It's just the storm," she whispered, clinging to the blanket. Just the storm. Then she heard it. Not thunder, not rain. A knock. 3 sharp raps on her window. Mara froze. No one would be outside in this storm. No one could. Slowly, heart pounding, she turned toward the glass. Her curtains swayed, as though touched by an invisible hand. Lightning lit the sky again, long enough for her to see a pale face pressed against the window pane. The face of a woman, lips blue, hair whipping like black smoke, eyes, 2 glowing, crackling orbs of white. Mara screamed and buried her head under her blanket. She told herself it wasn't real, that it was her imagination. But the next flash of lightning made her room shudder, and a voice hissed through the crack of her window. "Child, why are you still awake?" Mara lay frozen beneath her blanket, her breath sharp and shallow. The voice hadn't sounded like a whisper. It had sounded like thunder itself compressed into words. Her grandmother's warnings echoed in her mind. If the storm which speaks your name, don't answer. Don't move. Don't breathe. But the witch hadn't spoken her name. Not yet. Lightning cracked again, and Mara dared to peek from under the blanket. Her window pane had fogged, streaked with raindrops, but in the mist was something impossible. Words scratched by an unseen hand. Letters forming slowly, painfully, as though carved into glass. "Let me in." Mara scrambled back against her headboard, her heart slamming so hard she thought it might break her ribs. She wanted to scream for her grandmother, but her voice wouldn't come. Her throat locked, as if the storm itself had stolen her sound. The wind outside roared louder, shrieking like hundreds of voices woven together. It rattled every window in the house, but only Mara's bore the mark of the witch. She clutched her blanket, rocking forward, whispering through clenched teeth, "It's not real. It's not real." Then the thunder spoke again. "Little girl, you heard me." The sound came from everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the floorboards beneath her bed. It was as if the house itself had become a hollow drum for the witch's voice. "Why do you hide? I only want to see your eyes." Mara shook her head violently, tears stinging her vision. She had to get out. She had to run to her grandmother's room. But her feet wouldn't move. Something cold pressed against her ankles, rooting her to the mattress. She dared to glance down and nearly fainted. Thin, gray fingers, wet and skeletal, curled up from beneath her bed, coiling around her legs. Mara shrieked, kicking wildly. The fingers retreated, hissing like steam. But before she could leap away, another burst of lightning filled the room. For the first time, Mara saw her, not through glass, not as a reflection, but inside her room. The storm which stood at the foot of her bed, tall and crooked, her soaked dress clinging to a body too thin to be human. Her hair writhed as if alive, each strand sparking faintly. Her eyes were twin storms, white, endless, furious. And when she opened her mouth to smile, Mara saw no teeth, only jagged flashes of lightning that crackled where her tongue should be. "You should have slept, child," the witch hissed, raising her hand. "But now you belong to the storm." Mara's body trembled as the witch's hand hovered inches from her chest. Sparks arced between her long, claw-like fingers, filling the room with the smell of scorched wood. Every instinct screamed at Mara to run, but her body felt heavy, drowned in the weight of the storm. The witch tilted her head, eyes glowing like lightning behind clouds. "You know the old stories," she whispered, her voice carried on the rumble of thunder. "Your bloodline remembers me. That is why I come." Mara's throat tightened. Her grandmother's warnings suddenly felt heavier, more urgent than mere folklore. What do you want?" she stammered. The witch's smile widened, her lips splitting like cracks in dry earth. "A bargain. All storms demand payment. Your grandmother bought herself years with prayers and silence. But silence ends, and her time is gone. Now the debt is yours." Mara shook her head furiously. "No, I didn't ask for this. I don't want anything from you." The witch stepped closer. With each stride, the room warped. The wallpaper peeled, the wooden boards sagged, the ceiling groaned as if rotting beneath invisible rain. Mara's childhood bedroom decayed before her eyes, transformed into a storm-soaked ruin. "You misunderstand, child," the witch hissed. "You do not choose me. I choose you." Her skeletal hand darted forward, brushing against Mara's cheek. Instantly, Mara felt a shock course through her body, visions exploding behind her eyes. She saw her grandmother kneeling before a candlelit window decades ago, whispering frantic prayers. She saw children in the village, pale and trembling, clutching charms to keep storms away. She saw figures, young, terrified, being dragged into black clouds, their screams swallowed by thunder. Mara ripped herself free with a cry, stumbling from the bed. Her bare feet slapped against the warped floor, splinters biting into her skin. She bolted for the door, fumbling with the knob, but the metal scalded her palm like lightning. She yelped and turned, only to see the witch directly behind her, though she hadn't heard a single step. "There is no escape, little spark," the witch murmured, lowering her face until her storm-filled eyes burned into Mara's. "One way or another, you'll give yourself. Will it be your breath or your soul?" Mara's heart hammered so violently she thought it might burst. She had no weapon, no plan, only her grandmother's old warnings echoing in her mind. "Don't speak, don't answer, don't breathe." But it was too late for silence now. She sucked in a shaky breath, lifted her chin, and whispered, "No." The storm outside howled louder, shaking the house to its bones. And for the first time, the witch's smile faltered. The witch's smile faltered, just for a moment, but it was enough. Mara seized the silence, scrambling backward until her hands pressed against the crumbling wall. Her breath came in ragged gasps. "You dare deny me?" the witch thundered, her voice shaking the house like a clap of storm-born fury. Windows rattled in their frames, shards of glass raining to the floor. "Your grandmother knew better than to defy my claim." She obeyed. She endured. Mara's chest tightened. Through the chaos, her mind clawed at her grandmother's stories. Not just warnings, there had been whispers of something else, something hidden. She forced herself to remember. When the storm comes, light cannot save you. But there are words carved where no eyes look. Her gaze darted to the corner of the room where the wallpaper sagged and peeled. As the witch stepped closer, shadows dripping from her form like ink, Mara pressed against the weak spot in the wall. Beneath the peeling paper, her fingers brushed shallow grooves in the wood. Carvings. Her pulse raced. She scraped the paper away, revealing a series of symbols burned deep into the wooden beams. They glowed faintly, as if awakened by her touch. The witch froze. Her storm-fire eyes narrowed. "Those marks, you should not know them." Mara's fingers trembled over the carvings. They weren't random. They formed a circle, jagged and crude, but pulsing faintly with a strange light. Her grandmother must have carved them long ago. Protection, or maybe a prison. "What are they?" Mara whispered. The witch's face twisted in rage, lightning crackling through her veins. Lies of desperate mortals. Useless scratches meant to hold me back. But they cannot save you now. She lunged forward, her shadowy form stretching across the room like a wave of storm clouds. Instinct screamed in Mara's bones, and she pressed her palm flat against the largest symbol. The air shifted. A low hum filled the house, vibrating through the floorboards. The storm outside stuttered, as if the clouds themselves hesitated. The witch recoiled, her form flickering like a candle about to go out. She shrieked, voice sharp as thunder splitting the sky. "Who told you? Who showed you the circle?" Mara didn't answer. She could barely breathe. The hum grew louder, and the carvings pulsed brighter, casting faint light against the witch's writhing shadow. For the first time, Mara saw fear in the creature's stormlit eyes. Her grandmother's voice whispered faintly in her memory. "If the candle dies, the storm will seek you." But the walls remember what I could not say aloud. The circle binds her, but only if you are brave enough to finish it. Mara's stomach dropped. The carvings weren't complete. Gaps broke the circle. She would have to finish what her grandmother started. And the witch knew it. The house trembled as the storm which unleashed a roar that rattled Mara's bones. "You cannot bind what was born of thunder and shadow. You will never escape me." But Mara's hands, though trembling, searched the floor for anything sharp. If she wanted to live, she would need to carve faster than the storm itself. Mara's fingers closed around a shard of broken glass, sharp enough to bite into her skin. Her breath came in shallow bursts as she crouched before the half-finished circle. The witch's storm shadows curled around her ankles like snakes, tugging her backward, trying to tear her away. "Foolish child," the witch hissed, her voice a howl of wind that rattled the roof. "Do you think you can finish what your grandmother failed to do? She was too weak. You'll be too." But Mara's grip tightened on glass. Every muscle screamed with fear, yet somewhere deeper burned the echo of her grandmother's lullabies, songs meant to soothe, but now carrying hidden strength. She pressed the shard to the wood and carved. Sparks leapt as the circle connected piece by jagged piece. Each cut made the storm outside falter. Thunder boomed less violently, as if the sky itself feared the pattern Mara was drawing. The witch shrieked. Her form flickered, her edges unraveling like torn smoke. "Stop!" She lunged, slamming against the glowing carvings, her body splitting into tendrils of lightning that scorched the walls. Mara's hair whipped across her face, her skin burned with static, but she didn't stop. The last gap in the circle remained, a single break no wider than her palm. Mara's vision blurred with tears and exhaustion. She lifted the glass, ready to carve the final line. The witch towered above her now, her face stretched into something monstrous, less human than storm. Eyes like blazing suns bore down on Mara. "If you finish, you will bind me," she roared, "but you will bind yourself as well. Your blood will seal the circle. You will never be free." Mara froze. Her hand trembled. Could it be true? Had her grandmother refused to finish because she knew the price? The witch's smile returned, cruel and jagged. "Let go, child. Let the storm claim you. You belong to me." For a heartbeat, Mara almost faltered. Then she thought of her grandmother, of the endless fear that had plagued her family, of the shadows that crept with every thunderstorm. She refused to let the cycle continue. Her voice shook, but she whispered, "Better me than everyone else." With one final thrust, she carved the last line. The shard tore in her palm, spilling blood across the wood. The circle blazed with a blinding white light. The witch screamed, a sound so piercing it cracked the windows and split the night. Shadows clawed at the walls. Lightning burned holes into the ceiling, but the circle held. Mara felt herself pulled into its glow, her body weightless, her blood mingling with the storm. Then silence. The thunder ceased. The house stood still. Rain tapped gently on the roof, no longer furious, but soft, almost mournful. The carvings on the wall had burned away, leaving nothing but scorched wood. Mara was gone. So was the storm witch. In the stillness, Only a faint echo remained, like a whisper caught in the rafters. It was Mara's voice, or maybe her grandmother's, soft, warning, eternal. When a storm comes, do not fear the thunder. Fear the silence it leaves behind. And outside, on the horizon, a single lightning bolt lingered unnaturally long, shaped almost like the outline of a girl.